All right, so Obsidian Bases now replaces Notion. How? Why? We're going to get into that today. I'm not going to share my screen too much for this particular video. I just wanted to talk to you more about actually using the apps and why I made the move. And also kind of reiterating my history a little bit because I think a lot of people who are coming to this channel may not know about it. So I started out using like Google Sheets and Airtable, and the cool thing about Airtable is you were able to group things together, and that was something that really appealed to me at the time. This is way back in like 2018, 2019, and yeah, maybe even actually earlier than that, if I can recall correctly. And then I finally got onto Notion. And the first time I tried Notion, I actually hated it. And that was because I couldn't get the databases to be full screen and full width and understand how to the versus between like an inline and like full page database because it was all new. This was back when like Notion first came out. And so I deleted my account even. I hated it. And then I had eventually gone back and fell in love with it. And for about 5 or 6 years, I was using Notion nonstop and big proponent of it. I even tested for one of their like consultant things and stuff like that. But I just realized, I'm not really that interested in Notion anymore. I'm having too many issues with it being laggy, and at the time my internet was going out so much. And so I ended up moving to Obsidian. And once again, I hated it right away. And it's a crazy thing to think about how much I love it now. And same with Notion too, for a long time. I loved it. But then at first, just the complexities of the tools seemed so much that I just didn't want to use it. I didn't want to get that past that learning curve. And so I eventually left Obsidian after like just a month of trying it out, and then went to Capacities and Acrium and a whole bunch of other different tools along the way, and went back to Obsidian and been there ever since. Eventually, I finally moved everything out of Capacities because I had some stuff left over because of the database there, and then a whole bunch of stuff still left in Notion. I finally got pretty much all of that out. And that was before Obsidian Bases was even a thing. And I was trying Make MD, I was trying projects, I was trying Data Loom and Sets and all those different plugins that allowed for project management. Eventually, I kind of just settled on using a Reminder plugin and a Kanban plugin and calling it a day when it came to content planning, which is one of my major reasons why I made databases. However, I love databases. I made them for my modular degree, which is what got me into all these tools in the first place. So not just learning, but also content creation and even journaling too, ideally. And so the idea behind Obsidian Bases is very much integral to my own usage of it, but I think a lot of other people watching this as well. And the reason why I think it's so imperative that people need to start looking at Obsidian Bases as something so deep in potential is that, first off, it's completely expandable. So if you have a unique idea for a unique view of a database, you can actually create it. You can even just vibe code it. In fact, there's actually a few plugins out there. I don't know what I voice cracked, but there's a few plugins out there that actually were vibe coded for Obsidian and Bases in particular. A couple plugins I use, I don't think they were vibe coded, but they were essentially different views for the database that Obsidian does not have yet for some reason. Capano, I'm sorry, but I don't know why it's taking this long to get to it. But Kanban and calendar views. Those are some basic things that you have in Notion, and I was waiting for the longest time for the calendar view. And so once the Obsidian Bases table came in, I was finally able to remake a lot of my databases, even if they were just simple tables, and start getting that groundwork done. And then, a handful of months later, the calendar plugin came into the beta plugins on Obsidian Stats, and I was like, ooh, that's what I need. There was a couple of different options, but the basic one was way better. And I even made a video about it on this channel. Go check it out. The aspect behind using a calendar to plan out content is so imperative and important, and I think a lot of people just do not understand how much you can achieve when you have that view. And I'm just thinking to myself, what other views could we have? There are some that are feeds I've seen. There are some that are like weird groupings or even kind of like log-seq daily journals, which is super cool. And so there's a lot of ways of interacting with that data. And so there's a YouTube channel called Construct by D. Shout out to him. He made some really great videos about daily notes and upwards up to yearly notes. And he made a special database design that included all of them. And I took that same idea and kind of expanded on it on my own. And I also have it in my template too, just because I was like, everybody needs to be using this. It's amazing. And he wasn't the first one, but the way he explained it, I thought was just really great. And so that's why I wanted to shout him out. And it's interesting to think about, you can do movie databases, you can do video game databases, you can do book databases. And so then you have a visual representation of your game library or the movies you want to watch or the books your book library or want to read or have read. And then you just make separate views based on the status. Have you read it? No. Have you read it? Yes. Cool. Finished it? Yes. And so you have different views for different layers. And same thing for the daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly notes. I even added decadely because I was thinking people need to make notes for every decade too. And the fact that you have that ability, which you could do in Notion, but now it's local on my computer. And recently, the search function in Obsidian sucks. And I don't use OmniSearch, which I hear good things about, but I have a whole bunch of articles and videos about making your own Jarvis. And I really wanted to find all of them. But, they're separated between different folders for videos and podcasts and, let's say, articles and all kinds of different things, GitHub pages. And so I'm like, I don't want to go and find them all or whatever. Literally just made a base, gave it a few different keywords like J.A, etc. And then, or just regular Jarvis or make your own Jarvis. Like I just had a few different keywords and it populated all 25 things that I had scattered across my vault into one database. And then there's recently, I've been moving all my emails over. I can make a database out of that. Like there's so many things you can be doing with databases. And that's why I wanted to make this video today. No visualization needed because I want you imagining. I want you thinking about it. Because first off, if you have a great idea, please leave a comment down below because I want to be inspired myself, which is why I'm making this video to inspire you. This is a simple video. It's not actually intentional. It wasn't on my plan. It wasn't on my content database plan. But I was so moved by the idea of databases. I was just like, I need to make something about this. I want to tell the world. And I'm just trying to think of just unique purposes of using databases. And then you can use them in different ways and interact with them in different ways and then pull in that data into whatever project you are working on. And I was even thinking about when I was making my PIOS template vault, how do you handle projects, goals, and tasks? Well, that's different for everybody. And I make sure I say that in the notes there because it's interesting to think about. You could just do a little table for goals. Like you have a few different goals and you just change it every month. Cool, not a big deal. Or maybe your goals are a little bit more far-fetched or out there. And so you are going to take a longer time to track them and they're going to take a longer time to achieve, which means you're going to need a more robust system than a tiny little table, inline table, mind you, within a note. And so you actually need to make a database table for it. Cool. Or actually what I ended up doing was making a Kanban board view of my database. I felt like that was like, I have different kinds of goals. You have the life goals, you have professional, you have business, and you have, let's say, I don't know, travel or something like that. And so you have different goals between different types and you got different Kanban columns for those different types. And eventually those will fill up, but generally speaking, you're not going to have that many goals for most people. Alternatively, you could even have a combined database that includes the projects and goals and tasks all in one that are basically different views within each other. That's kind of complicated and maybe they don't need to be in the same one. Maybe they just need to be linked. But how you go about that is your choice. And that is what I'm trying to say. There's different options. You could do goals within a note. Then those notes can be within a Kanban board for a projects database or vice versa. And so there's this magical interconnectivity that Obsidian allows that Notion can only dream of. The one big issue I had with Notion is that you could not combine databases without painstakingly bringing all the stuff over. So for example, I wanted to have a calendar for all my learning. I wanted to have a calendar for all my content creation. And so on my Notion dashboard, I had to have 2 different calendars on there just so I could see what do I need to do that day. And then if I wanted to have a management system built into it, you had to basically just create a database for tasks. There was no unified thing, whereas there's a unified task plugin in Obsidian. And on top of that, presumably you would need to have a task calendar as well. So it would have been 2 or 3 calendars. And yes, with Notion Calendar, you can kind of consolidate it, but then you're still requiring another app. And technically Obsidian still needs that too, but you can have a choice of using like Google Calendar if you wanted to, or Morgan or Todoist or whatever. And those are generally better than Notion in a lot of ways for those purposes. And so you weren't able to bring together those 2 different databases without actually merging them. Whereas in Obsidian, you can actually just have different properties being pulled in into a new database view that it ends up merging them. So I can do a due date on my content, I can do a due date on my modular degree, and then create a new calendar view that brings in both of those folders. And cool, now I don't have to worry about, am I missing something for this day? And so that's the key. So granted, I think Obsidian bases need some more visualization. So like different tags, so modular degree and content can have their own like yellow and purple colors. That way I can actually tell whether or not it's input or output. But the point being, like, you can still do it now and eventually more visual features will come in. So if you have any ideas, please leave them down below.